You guys today. Everybody feeling good? Sun came up and your heart's pounding and you're drawing oxygen in your lungs. That's a good day, right? I'm glad to see you. I always say it's better to be seen than to be viewed, and I think that holds true. It's been a pleasure to know Judy. We did meet through those circumstances that she's describing, and you have to be careful what you tell people, what your interests are, and that kind of thing. I just went to a luncheon that Pete was speaking at about emergency management, and after the luncheon I walked up to thank him for speaking and just happened to mention that I was certified by the Georgia Baptist Convention as a disaster relief chaplain. And next thing I know, I'm standing up in front of you in your fellowship hall as a fire chaplain. It feels like how it went. Judy and I started working on this project together, and Pete and I got to know each other better. And he did approach me. They had an opening for a volunteer fire chaplain for the Fayette County Fire Department. I was very interested because, well, to be honest with you, my house caught on fire. Before I met Pete and before I met Judy, we had a fire at our house. Actually, the summer just previous to that. It was an exceptionally hot, dry summer. Temperatures in the triple digits. Humidity, like 2,000%, and everything was dry and brittle. And I'd cooked a brisket, delicious, and I took it off of the smoker about 2 o'clock in the morning, wrapped it up in aluminum foil and towels, and brought it inside, and just going to let it rest while I went to rest. And I shut down my smoker, closed off all the vents, and went to bed. And I'd done that kind of thing a million times before without any incident. But that particular night, under those particular circumstances, with the heat and the dryness of everything else, the radiant heat from the smoker caused a fire on my wooden deck. It burned a hole in the deck that the smoker fell through. And when the smoker, which still had fire in it, fell through about 12 feet to the ground, it kind of exploded and caught everything underneath the deck on fire, which burned through the deck and was starting to burn into the trees and starting to burn into our house. Smoke alarm was going off. My wife woke me up about 4:30, and she's a light sleeper. I am not. I likely, were it not for her, would have just woken up in the arms of Jesus, because I would have slept right through that smoke alarm. She woke me up and just pointed to the deck. Our master bedroom window looks out onto our deck, and the deck was fully engulfed in flames. And she got kids calling 911 as she's running down the hall, and got our dogs and got everybody in big Lincoln Navigator we were driving at the time, and backed that thing up out of the driveway into the cul-de-sac and waited. Meanwhile, me and my oldest son, just in what we were wearing, our pajama shorts and t-shirts, and we went out onto the deck hoping to get the garden hose and just get some water on the fire. And we went to the garden hose, and it had already melted to the side of the house. We could feel the heat on our feet, because we're out there in just our bare feet, just what we came out of bed in, just not even thinking, just trying to react. And he and I just started trying to throw buckets of water on this fire, because I'm watching it as it's getting into the tops of the trees now, and so concerned that it's going to spread, not only burn down my house, but burn down every house in my neighborhood. And I don't want to be that guy on the news explaining how he burned down the neighborhood. Fortunately, within just literally 2 or 3 minutes, the fire department was there, and they put a stop on the fire. They came into the house. They discovered it had gotten into the subfloor, into the basement. They took care of everything. They rescued my family. They rescued our home. Our fire marshal, Jimmy Hall, told me that another 10 minutes probably would have all that it would have taken for that fire to have been in our house and for our entire home to be fully engulfed, and that if we'd slept another 10 minutes, likely our entire family would have been lost. Certainly the home would have been lost. And so I just felt such an incredible sense of relief and gratitude for those heroes who came into my house who in the middle of the night, we woke up out of a dead sleep to get in their truck, put on their gear, and come and go to work. And we needed them, and in the moment that we needed them most, they were there. When Pete came to me and said there was this opportunity to serve as a volunteer chaplain for the fire department, I was very interested, because I thought, you know, when I needed them, they were there. I would love it if they understood that when they need me, I would be there for them too. And so I've never been a chaplain of anything. I didn't know what was expected. And I went to fire headquarters and met with Chief Bartlett, Chief Scarborough, and Chief Nelms, and they didn't really know what to expect either. They, in my opinion, had very low expectations, which I can meet low expectations, but the expectations were sort of come to the Thanksgiving meal and say the blessing over the food. Come to rookie school graduation and shake that young firefighter's hand and welcome him into our fire family. Maybe pray the invocation at that. Ceremonial kinds of things. And I remember saying to them, you know, I understand that the fire department is a paramilitary organization, that ceremony really matters, and that I would certainly be available for those kinds of things. But in my mind, a chaplain is a pastor, a shepherd, and that it's impossible to be a pastor or a shepherd if I don't know the sheep and if they don't know me. And so as chaplain, would I have the opportunity to have access to the fire stations? Could I respond to critical incidents? And as surprised as I was that they hadn't asked me to do that, they were even more surprised that I was asking to do that, and quickly said yes and yes. And I started work as a volunteer fire chaplain just by going station to station with the battalion chief on duty and meeting the men and women in those stations, getting to know them. A little bit awkward every time you walk into one of those stations for the first time as the chaplain. You don't know what they expect of you, and they don't know what to expect either. And you sit down, and it just takes a few minutes, though, to work through that awkwardness and to realize that I'm sitting in a room full of friends and heroes who desperately need support. Desperately need support. You may or may not be aware. First responders, and I'll include firefighters and EMS workers, paramedics, 911 dispatchers, law enforcement officers. First responders as a whole are twice as likely to suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder as the general population, twice as likely to suffer from depression, 3 times more prone to be divorced, and 3 times more likely to die by suicide than in a line of duty death. There is a tremendous amount of trauma and a tremendous amount of drama that they deal with every single day. Every single day they show up for work knowing that folks in the community on the worst day of their lives are going to reach out and ask for help. And they're going to have an opportunity to step into that worst day and try to make it a little bit better. But it takes a toll, because as I've worked with first responders, I've discovered that these are broken people themselves, you know. They are broken people who have invested their lives in serving other broken people. And they need support. They need emotional and spiritual support. And so we started, 5 years or so ago as a volunteer fire chaplain, and about a year ago, my church and I came to the determination that I was going to start to split my time. That I became bivocational at the church, meaning now that I have 2 jobs. I'm still the pastor at Rolling Hills. I still preach there on Sunday morning. I still lead a couple of small groups. I'm still the shepherd when they need me. I'm still working with our leadership team, planning those kinds of things that pastors do. But I'm also the chaplain for Fayette County Fire, Fayette County 911. I'm one of the chaplains who works with City of Fayetteville PD. I'm the chaplain at Tyrone PD. I'm chaplain at Riverdale Fire Service. And we have a volunteer chaplain now who's helping us with Spalding emergency management. We are everywhere. I mean, a year ago, it was just working with Fayette County Fire, but God has opened up door after door after door to come and to help other agencies. And as He's opened up doors to work with other agencies, He's opened up relationships with churches who've partnered with us, opened up relationships with folks who volunteered as chaplains to come alongside me and help me reach some of the places that are difficult. I have a volunteer chaplain who helps me with Riverdale. I have a volunteer chaplain who helps me with Tyrone. And I have a volunteer chaplain who's really solely responsible for Spalding County. Those are places that I didn't necessarily seek to go to, but places where there were needs, where God just opened up doors. Riverdale was a situation where there was an incident just almost a year ago where a little girl was tragically killed in an accident in a Payless shoe store in Riverdale. Some of you may remember the news story. A mirror fell off the wall and she was crushed. And it was Riverdale Fire that responded to that. Paramedics from the Riverdale station, which is very close to that store, came in. They did their best to do CPR, to get oxygen into her lungs. Her injuries were too severe. They were the ones who loaded her up in the medic truck and sent her off to the hospital where she was pronounced dead on arrival. A little 3-year-old girl, and those men, those friends, those heroes, every time they're involved in a pediatric death, they think of their own child laying there. They project themselves. They see that mother who is struggling. She walked into the shoe store expecting to buy a pair of shoes and to go home on a Friday night and enjoy time with her family, who's now lost her child, and they can't help but project their own emotion there and to feel and to imagine what it would be like if that were my family. And unlike the general public, where this thing happens rarely, seldomly, if ever, in our own families, we have our own struggles, but that kind of trauma is not normal. It's, in a sense, it almost becomes normal for them. They deal with it all the time. You know, on my phone, I get texts from 911 every time there's a critical incident in the county, so that I can respond if needed. I'm aware that something has happened. And I can't tell you the number of texts I get because somebody's had a heart attack, or somebody's had a stroke, or someone's been in a car accident, there's a fatality. The fires happen as well, but we run more medical calls in the county than we run fire calls by far, and they're dealing with life and death every single day. And again, they're broken themselves. It's broken people who are trying to help broken people. Luke 9:36, Jesus looks at the crowd, and he sees them, and he has compassion on them because he sees them as sheep without a shepherd. And that's the sense that I've had since I stepped into this field in working with these friends and heroes. I look at our first responders and I see what they're dealing with in the day-to-day, the stress of their work life and the trauma that they're all dealing with. And I know the brokenness that's in their own lives because they're pretty open to talk to me about it. And I see them as sheep without a shepherd. Men and women who desperately need to see the kindness and compassion of Jesus expressed to them. And it is an opportunity. It is an opportunity for me, and I would say it's an opportunity for the body of Christ here in Fayette County to rise up and to reach out and to love these men and women and to show them Jesus. Because even heroes need a helping hand. They may be the strongest and bravest among us, but they still need a helping hand. They still need Jesus. And that is our opportunity. It's essentially a ministry of presence. I spend a lot of time sitting in the fire station around the table, drinking coffee. I don't even like coffee. I like creamer. But in some fire stations, you're made fun of if you use creamer. I've learned that. But I drink it anyway because I want to sit and listen, and I want to earn the right to hear them and to be heard by them. You'll laugh at a lot of jokes that really just aren't even all that funny. You talk about a lot of nothing because you want to be available when they're ready to talk about something that matters, and you just keep showing up and showing up and showing up. I was at 911 yesterday. I do, on Monday mornings, I do a devotional over at Fayette County Fire for our command staff. The first meeting that happens in the conference room at Fayette County Fire is a prayer meeting every week, 7 o'clock on Monday mornings when I meet with command staff for devotion and prayer. On Wednesday mornings, I'm at 911, 8 o'clock in the morning, and that is some of their admin folks and some of the radio operators. Their supervisors will take their radio spot so they can be free to come to the devotion. And from 8 to about 8:30, we do devotion and prayer there in the conference room at 911. When I'm with them, I am opening up the Bible, sharing some truth, asking, how is it that we can be praying for you? And I'll tell you what, those 911 operators are very transparent and honest about what they need prayer about. They too are broken people who are trying to help broken people. Yesterday before I left, one of those dispatchers came over and hugged my neck and said, I told my husband this morning, he was getting ready for work and I was getting ready for work, and I said, it's Wednesday. That's a good day. Do you know why Wednesday's a good day? And he said, why is Wednesday a good day? And she said, because the chaplain comes on Wednesday. She's like, I look forward every Wednesday to you being here. It's the bright spot in the week because you sit down and you show us Jesus, and it gives me the hope and the encouragement I need to get through the rest of the week. That has nothing to do with me. That has everything to do with Jesus and the opportunity he's opened for the gospel to come into our 911 center. And that's really how I see myself, as an agent of the gospel. I'm very careful to say to our chiefs and our directors, I am a chaplain, but I'm a chaplain who is I'm a Christian chaplain. I am a follower of Jesus Christ. And that does not mean that I'll ignore the needs of a person who's not a Christian, or that I'll be neglectful of the needs of a person who's not a Christian, or that I'll be disrespectful to a person who's not a Christian. I'm going to treat everybody with respect. I'm going to be interested in everybody. I'm going to express care to everybody. However, I am a Christian chaplain, and while I'm there to provide emotional and spiritual support, I know that at the end of the day, the very best thing that I have to offer really is Jesus. Jesus is the anchor to my soul, and he will be the anchor to their soul too if they'll let him. So I want to bring Jesus into your firehouse. I want to bring Jesus into your squad cars. I want to bring Jesus into the 911 center. And the truth is that if you don't want me to talk about Jesus, you probably shouldn't ask me to come. And you know what? They want me to come. They want to see the kindness and compassion of Jesus expressed to their folks. And this is not a thing that I can do on my own. Like I said, I've been blessed to have several of our local pastors come alongside, and met this morning with another guy who's a pastor here locally, who's interested in coming alongside and helping us as a volunteer chaplain. We are enlisting churches in an initiative called Adopt a Station, where a church will adopt a fire station, and they will take food to the fire station. It works out about once a month, once every 3 weeks or so. They'll bring dinner over at 5 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, and not just drop off dinner and go, but actually come in with the meal, sit and share the meal with the folks who are working there in the station, and then, obviously clean up after. But the idea is that if you go every 3 weeks, you'll see the same shift on that Sunday. And if you see the same shift and you keep eating with them, then friendships develop. And before long, those friendships are going deeper, and you're not just knowing those men and women, but you're actually meeting their families and getting to know their story. And you have more and more opportunities to express Jesus to them as well. We're inviting churches to come on board and join us by adopting stations. We're inviting churches. There are a number of ways that you can serve, but those two as volunteer chaplains and the adopt a station are the ones that we really push hard. We're inviting churches to get involved just by praying. That every time you hear a siren, and you guys right here with the hospital right here, you must hear sirens all the time. That every time you hear a siren, that you pray for those folks who are responding to the need. Pray every time you drive past a fire station or you see one of our folks in their uniform. That you pray for first responders all the time. And we're inviting folks to get involved financially and to give as well. We're trying to provide a number of resources for our folks here. We're trying to help them in their marriages. I spend more of my time doing marriage counseling in public safety than I do in church. There is so much need there, and we've had so much success in helping families with their marriages. We're trying to provide resource for that. We're trying to provide Bibles and discipleship materials. We feed a lot of them. They like it when you show up with donuts or biscuits or chicken or really anything at all. And so it takes resource, and so we asked folks to get involved with us financially as well. And I brought with me a stack of cards that we'll pass out and brochures as well that tell you a little bit more about the ministry, and the card has all of my contact information should you want to talk to me personally about any of it. But I wonder if anybody might have any questions.
Where's the 911 center?
Yeah, that's a good question. Do you know where McCurry Park is?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you go down Highway 54 and you turn right there at McCurry Park on McDonald Road, and you follow McDonald Road up to almost the county line. The last street on your right is called Volunteer Way. And Volunteer Way goes, and there's a gate, and when the gate opens up, the fire department's training center's there, their burn house, and where they do all of their physical stuff, and where they do rookie school. The emergency operating center is there, and the 911 dispatch center is all there as well.
Yeah. I always heard that you should maybe go there and make yourself known. Maybe, to the 911 center. Yeah,
well, the 911 folks are overlooked
Yeah.
because you don't see them out anywhere.
Right.
The only time you have contact with them normally is if you call 911 because you're having an emergency. No, we are big proponents of that, and I can help arrange that. It's not as easy as just kind of going down there. They don't just open the gate for anybody, but I can help if you guys want to do something. Our church is really involved in taking a meal from time to time, or we took them a lot of cookies at Christmas time, or cards, or just personal visits. They're certainly open to all that. It just has to be arranged, but I'd be happy to help you arrange that if you want to. Yeah, they are overlooked, and they deal with as much stress or maybe more than anybody else. And unlike our firemen and our folks in law enforcement, who when they work a difficult incident and they go back to the station and they have an opportunity to debrief and get their heads on straight before they go on another call, those 911 operators just have to stay and answer the next call.
Yeah.
And
a lot of times they don't know what happens.
A lot of times they don't. They don't have closure, and they will do. I have sat with 911 operators as they worked with someone who was having a heart attack, and they heard their last words as they took a call from someone calling in, committing suicide, and I just want to report where to find the body, or someone's broken into my house, or I've just been in a car accident. And every time the phone rings, I mean, you can imagine when your phone rings at home, you hope it's not bad news.
Yeah.
Every time that phone rings, it's bad news, and you don't have the option of saying, "Oh, I'm tired, they'll leave a message, I'll call them back." You have to answer, and you have to be able to respond. And they're very young. Most of our dispatchers are in their 20s, and it's taxing. It's difficult work. They're on 12-hour shifts, so they work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And those shifts are long. and they're hard. And yeah, 911 certainly needs prayer and support. So yeah, thank you for asking about them.